Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Recipe for Reality, where we talk all things we talk all things reality TV. Sorry, I'm rusty. It's been a while, Zach. How you doing, Zach? Welcome back.
Hey, I am good, Dill. Welcome back. Good to see your face.
I know.
Your face abroad. Your face abroad somewhere brand new, brand spanking new, and
Yeah.
super secret.
Yeah, not really secret much anymore, but I'll let people dig in the past videos to figure out where I am because then we'll get views on those videos. But yeah, like it's one of those things where I've been hyping up on the TikTok. We've been doing the TikToks every week, and thank you guys for tuning in. But we haven't really gotten to talk together face to face about the season so far. And it's my birth week. My birthday is tomorrow on the 17th, so it's like one of those things also where I wanted to be present here on the channel because you're gonna get to see a lot of stuff coming up soon, but a lot of stuff that's been filmed in the past month. So it's going to be nice to kind of just talk with Zach. And we are both very busy, obviously. I'm doing a job. He's doing his jobs and stuff. But, I wanted to get on and at least talk a little bit about where we are in Survivor before things really take off, because we are now officially at the merge portion of the game. I know people said it happened a week ago, 2 weeks ago. No, now we're in the merge. This was a tribe swap. They split into two. Now they're merged. But Zach, how you feel about this season so far in general?
I think it's great. I think people are having a bit of a problem, kind of not in the game, but in the fandom. I think people are having a really hard time finding someone to latch onto. I think there's been obviously a lot of love for Eva, but there's also been a lot of hate for Eva from different kind of communities and different people who are more team starred, people who are more team who were more team say. Like there were a lot more people kind of rooting against Eva as many as there were who were rooting for her. So it's super interesting to see things like that. Super wild to hear about like things that we learned about Charity just in her realm of politics, things like that, which was wild. Great winner pick, Zach. Great job.
Hey, your winner pick outlasted mine by 2 weeks, so we both had a rough winner pick go this season.
But also based on our preseason rankings, a lot of big surprises. We both were very high on Thomas, and obviously we saw the downfall of Thomas pretty quickly from someone who I was not so high on, and I don't think you were so high on either, who has really turned around and kind of switched things up, which is Camilla.
Yeah, we thought she was going to be an easy like pre-merger, like Annika, J Maya, kind of like the young underestimated girl that rubs people the wrong way. But she's ended up being the one kind of pulling all the strings from the sidelines, a la D, a la Kenzie in a way. Not as Kenzie wasn't as strategic as Camilla is. And we've seen this duo ship, which I feel like that's kind of been like where I've been starting a lot of my conversations about the season with people is these duos because Jeff hyped it up to be a very duo-based season, and we saw, immediately Thomas and Bianca are a duo, and Joe and Eva are a duo, and Kyle and Camilla are a duo, and we're really seeing that come to fruition. Not just the duos that make it far, but the duos that crumble. I mean, Cedric and Say and their journey, now they're both gone, but seeing how that rise and fall happened,
which is crazy.
Yeah, and then Mitch and Charity being a smaller duo that really didn't matter in the grand scheme, but even the smaller duos that came and went, like Star and Eva now, who were enemies, now are friends, and they are working together, and that's also been cool for the fan base to kind of come together on that, because obviously Eva was not the biggest fan of Star. People thought it could be racially motivated. I think it's just social cues and not understanding one another. And now that they have that communication, but I love what you said about like you can have someone who's so inspiring, like Mitch, like Eva, but there are also people that are polarizing in terms of strategy because because they're also in these big alliances. And that's another thing with the season is that we're seeing a alliance dominated by Joe, Shaheen, Kyle, Eva, and David, these five strong people, which is something we also don't see a lot of in Survivor, or at least we don't see a lot of successful alliances that are strength based, which also can piss off people who are more into the strategy. Like, and that's, I think, where Camilla and Kyle's relationship becomes the most fascinating because they're the only two who are split. Joe and Eva are on the same side. They're both in the strong alliance. Kyle and Camilla, Kyle's in the strong alliance, Camilla's not. And I think that's what makes for such a fun, exciting merge to come,
And at the end of the day, and again, we'll get more in depth about all of this as we talk, but I think if I had to make a case, I think that even though someone like Kyle has his hand kind of in both camps, his foot in both camps rather, I would say he's probably of the two of them, the lesser likely to win if sitting at the end, based on just the way that everyone in this season has talked a lot about the way that they are going to view people at the end of this season. There was a lot of talk, especially in that episode where who was it who went home? I can't remember who it was. But there was a lot of talk about the fact that like people are about loyalty. They're about like you're with us. I think it was David who talked a lot about it. Who was like,
Mm-hmm.
you're with me, and I find out that you've crossed me. Like I'm not giving you anything. And meanwhile, here's Kyle, the puppet master. Not really the puppet master in the same way that we've seen like like again, like a D or like
Jam in a way.
yeah, like the jam where like it's really like I'm controlling everything, but the person who like he has all of the information that he needs to go and do whatever he wants and make it happen the way that he wants to make it happen. I the way that it seems based off of just the edit that we're getting, Kyle sitting at the end is way more unlike it's sort of like a Charlie and Maria, but like it's David and Kyle, right? Like David being like an opportunity for Kyle to win the whole thing, but being burned by the fact, not respecting the fact that it's game. And with Maria, I think that was really just like that was a personal thing instead of game. With David and a Kyle, and again, this is just like my thoughts on where I've been going. Yeah. It will be David thinking that it's game because he's like, I just want I want loyalty. I'm here for a loyal game. But a lot of fans, I think, are going to see that if that is something that ends up happening in the end game, a lot of fans are going to see that as as a bitch move by someone who doesn't really know Survivor.
Right. Yeah, and because at the end of the day, they're going to see someone who flipped on loyalty, and that's going to villainize them, where I feel like that's such an old school thing. It's like, you betrayed the alliance, but like in most seasons, betraying the alliance is what gets you the win. So it's going to be really fascinating, I agree, if Kyle and Camilla are there. Because the problem with Camilla is I just don't think people see her moves. She's going to be someone who has to sell that move in the end. Whereas Kyle, I think, can at least say, I was in both alliances, I was doing this, I was doing that. But is being in all those alliances going to piss off people like David, like Joe? I think Shaheen respects it. I think Shaheen's the type of player who, I think he's having that itch to kind of play both sides, but he realizes he has a good thing going, so he's not going to budge. But I do think like David, Joe, maybe even Eva at a point, maybe like Star, maybe they will be burned on the whole like, two timing aspect. But the cool thing is that it is a 5-5 split, and Kyle is not necessarily as ingrained with that strong alliance as they think he is. So really this could end up being a 6-4, and all four of them get majorly blindsided this episode: David, Shaheen, Joe, and Eva. Or this ends predictably with Kyle stringing Camilla along, and then Kyle and Camilla are your 6th and 5th place, and that's your final four. And I think that's what's so interesting is I really don't know how ping-pongy it's going to be. I don't think we're going to get like Mitch goes home and then Shaheen and then Star and then Eva. No, I think it's going to be either one side, the underdogs this episode rise up against the strong people, or the strong people continue to pick them off. And I really think this is going to be the episode. This is why it's so cool that we're talking now, because I think this next episode is going to be what dictates that based on what Kyle and Camilla do, which is so fascinating, Yeah.
And I think the good thing still about this, and especially like the Say narrative was getting a little bit tired. So I think people are kind of thrilled with there are a lot of people who are not happy. There are a lot of people who are very happy that Say is gone.
I am not happy, but for other reasons, which I'll speak about.
Right. And I think that's the big thing too, right? Is that like what's really good about this season is that I think overall with this season, the contenders, even though like I think Say is probably one of the best castings they've had in a while because she played the game full way through. She may not have been a great game player for a lot of people, but I'd rather watch someone play the game and play it their way, even if it's not necessarily the greatest way to be playing the game, versus I would have preferred Say on jury over Cedric. I think Cedric staying on jury is a really difficult thing to have because Say as a character is so much more interesting and I think requires more of everybody left in the game to like play their cards right. You know what I mean?
Where Cedric's easily swayable, which we've seen, every single move Cedric made, he was swayed by a lost vote or a gained vote. Yeah.
He's sitting in there at Ponderosa for the longest period of time with people who are just going to be coming in and telling him things. And rather than asking questions, he's going to be like, oh, yep, that's who I think should win. Oh, yep. Okay. Yeah, I can see why they could win. And there's not going to be really any fight for his vote, which is probably one of the least exciting things as a viewer to watch, because what I want during a final tribal council is I want to watch Kyle and Camilla, like, right, if that's a duo, I want to watch them get up there with Say and Say be like, you both said you did the same thing. I don't think either of you did shit. Tell me why you're the winner and tell me why you're getting my vote, right? And I think that Say brings that, whereas Cedric will be like, All right, tell me something interesting about your game, and that's boring, right? And
It's
I don't like having that instead
and
of
and and I'm gonna get into my rant because I rant on I've already filmed my TikTok rankings. I've already ranted about it already, so people will see this when it comes out. But my thing is not the fact that it's Say not on the jury, Cedric on the jury. It's the fact that they're both not on the jury because they both made the merge, or maybe they both don't be on the jury. But this whole twist of like one's on the jury, one's not. Because here's the thing: if Joe wins that challenge and they have to go to tribal second, and everyone's guaranteed the jury spot, there's a good chance Say stays. So really, you're gonna say because David the Muscle Man beats Joe in a challenge, Say goes home because they don't want her on the jury. Right, because that's the one reason they booted her, because they were between her and Mitch, and I think Mitch is a bigger game threat at the end. I think Mitch is much harder to control because Say hasn't voted correctly every time. I don't think Say is a threat. I think Say is a loud person and she speaks her mind, which is tough if you're in her alliance and you betray her. But if you're going up against her, she's very easy to kind of manipulate. You know, she can vote however she votes. If you're solid with your alliance, you're solid with your alliance. I think honestly, Mitch is the more dangerous player that they should have sniped, because now Mitch has the Rachel trajectory of losing your ally pre-merge, getting into the merge, and then kind of just making this underdog run if he wants to. And I don't know if that's going to happen based on the layout and the loyalty thing and the strong alliance. But in my mind, I'm like, because of a challenge of a random split in which Joe and David outlasted every other player who's played that challenge, it just so happened that David is the strongest man to play this game. Now all of a sudden Say has to go home just because, oh well, this person's not making the jury. Like, I just hate that that's the way people are voting. And I also hate that because of these split tribes, you just have to kind of come up with a consensus, and the consensus always ends up being either the minority like tribe, like, okay, Mary, Cedric, and Say, they were a tribe of three, let's just pick them off like they tried with Caleb before the shot in the dark, or it goes for the minority in terms of just the black players, the subconscious bias, which I think is just also a problem, because if you looked at like past seasons, it's Tori is the only white person to ever be booted at this double tribal. It was Nasir, it was Ryan, it was James, it was all these black players, and it's like these patterns show, and I think it's just because these subconscious biases come into play. And I hate the split tribal. I think it needs to go away. I think a more fun vote would have been to see them all vote together. Like, yeah, the charity vote was boring, but like, imagine them all coming together and voting. Like, it would. I think Mitch goes home. Like Mitch is safe because they split the tribes and they said Cedric and Say are easy boots, and we don't want Say on jury. And I just think that's the wrong way to play the game. Like, yes, you got to consider the jury, but I think honestly, don't tell them the format. Don't tell them that Say is going to be on the jury or not. Let them question it, because so then they're playing based on their own personal needs, not the needs of the endgame.
Or worthwhile to keep her here and potentially keep her off of the jury for that much longer, or do we want to risk the chance and like just send her home thinking like, all right, well, it's either going to work in our favor or it's not.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it sucks because I think, again, as a character for the season, they did such a good job boosting up Say as someone who everyone had a hard time rallying around, but like wanted to send home, but they knew she wouldn't be good for their game if they kept her around too long. So if you have that ability to like, if you have built that storyline so much, to just build that storyline, so then when they officially send her home, it's like, yep, and guess what? They did it. They accomplished what they set out to do. Like, it just feels like a cheap shot at the end of the day.
And you know what's most disappointing? Who were, Say, the two people that Say was most involved with this season in terms of a narrative and relationship?
Cedric and
Mary.
Mary, yes.
And guess who was not in her tribal council that she went home in? They were on the other side. And that's really a bother to me, because like I'm like, this is the pinnacle of their relationship, and now we're not even seeing them vote her out. Like, if they had voted her out, it would be like, okay, like this is fulfilling, this is closure. Right. But now it's like Say's getting voted out by all these people she hasn't played with, including like Mitch, who she didn't like, and Chrissy, who she didn't like. But it's like, now because Joe, Eva, like that's who's gonna vote her out. It just doesn't feel right. It's like, no. So Cedric and Mary have no reaction to Say's blindside. Cedric especially, because we're not even gonna see him back at camp. So it's just it's so frustrating to me. Like that, I just hate the split tribal. I think it needs to go. I think it's one episode where I was like, I'm not digging this. And every episode until then has been so good. And I hate all the lost votes and all that shit, but even though Justin and Bianca basically went home because of a dice roll, the edit of the episodes, the characters, the alliances, they're all so good. Like the Kyle and Camilla pull over the wool's eyes of Thomas, like that was such good gameplay. That whole build up of the pre-merge, that like it sucks that this merge was such a like fumble for me, you know?
Well, and something that you talked about earlier about how like, you know, we don't really see the strong people stick together really. I feel like if we're gonna equate it to another CBS show, right? It's like Big Brother, right? People are
This
very
is a very Big Brother coded season. I've been saying it in the Discord. Yes, it is. Yes.
well because a lot of these people would be great for like say perfect Big Brother player.
Yeah.
Like I really do think that, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not on the island and you have more places for people to go and there's less shit hidden around. Like someone like Say is not nearly as unpalatable for a lot of these players.
Yeah. She's like the Angela. She would be like an Angela where she would be nominated all the time, but somehow survive. And, you know.
Same thing with like, I honestly, same thing with like a Mitch or Thomas. Thomas is a perfect Big Brother player. I think Thomas on Big Brother probably is like a winner of a season, if not like top 5.
Yeah.
And a part of the reason that he like, and there is a difference, right? Because you have someone like Kyle who is a survivor player. He knows how he's playing the game. He knows what he wants to do to play the game. And then meanwhile, you have someone who's been creeping up in a lot of people's winner rankings, which is David, who we haven't even really talked about David yet.
Yeah.
I like David so much more than I thought I was going to like him when the season started. The problem is I'm going to be annoyed if he wins because I don't think he knows enough about the game that it's just going to feel a little lucky. And I guess
that's the old school mentality too. Yeah, that's the old school.
Part of it is luck, and that's the old school way of thinking. But I think then it becomes like and again, this is sort of the same for Big Brother, right? Where like the community is so full of super fans now that people are upset when a super fan doesn't win or someone who's like a fan of the game doesn't win. But but like this all started with people who had never played the game before because it didn't exist. We're all winning because it's a social experiment, and I think people forget that. I won't be upset if David wins. I'll just be shocked that they managed to do such a good job at making me not like him in the preseason and then have him be the winner.
What's so interesting about David is I feel like for a period of time, he was the hero of the season. Like when he was talking about his sisters and him taking care of them and his girlfriend and living in a van and wanting to like win this for her to keep his relationship and get married. But then like you also have those moments where he is cocky and like he's at the challenge and he's like, I could have gone all day. But I also wonder, it's kind of like that endearing jock thing of like, I wonder if all those cocky sentiments are just completely aloof, kind of meathead himbo. Yeah. Like, I really don't think he has any malice. And that's what makes him so endearing, is that I feel like even when he's like, you know, someone who wins this season will earn it because they'll be strong. Like, normally, and I've talked to a lot of people like this. I know Matt feels the same way too. It's like that's annoying because it's like that's discrediting Dee, that's discrediting Kenzie, that's discrediting Rachel. But at the same time, for someone who hasn't seen all those seasons, he's thinking, I'm on an island, I'm surviving, I'm like winning challenges, I'm strong, I'm leading these teams to victory. That's in his eyes the noble way to go, and like that's what he means by like the right person will win. But I also think there would be something great to say about like someone like Camilla getting the win in the end and him being like, you know what? I didn't realize this is how survivors play, because that's really what it is. He just doesn't know how survivors played, and I think it's honestly going to be one of those rude awakenings where he's either going to realize he has to adapt and be more strategic, and that's going to be his big like coming out final tribal moment of like, I realized I had to play a different game than I thought I would. I wanted to just be strong man, and I had to adapt. Or he will give kudos to the winner who adapted, that proved him wrong, that was not the way you had to play. Which reminds me of the old school seasons. It's a lot of like that Richard Hatch thing of Rudy being like, oh, so this is how an alliance works. I didn't understand that until I met you, Richard. Thank you. And that's season 1, and they become best friends, you know? So it's like, I just think that's such a cool idea that we're watching David play almost like he's time traveling in a way, which I think makes him endearing, even though the preview alludes to him going totally haywire next week. So I really have no idea what David's going to do. And I don't think he's the winner right now, just based on the last few episodes. I don't know. Who are you looking at right now as the potential winners right now, Zach?
Kyle and Camilla are really the two that I'm looking at because they have the most consistent content every week.
Strategic content too, because I think Joe and Eva have a lot of consistent content in terms of visibility, but it's almost all personal. And like this week, we finally get Joe's strategic content. You know,
I'm gonna give a shout out to Reddit user Edgic.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait.
That's the community at Edgic community. Yeah.
User Matt RFS.
Yeah.
Matt RFS. I'm gonna give you a shout out. Because I'm just like, as I do my research now, I research now, Dylan. This is why.
Zach's an Edgic Redditor now. That's awesome.
Something that he says about Eva specifically is that Eva's edit is much better than Joe's, and I should probably have her above him. But again, screaming journey edit. And I honestly wasn't thinking about that until I read that, and then I've thought about kind of the content. for Eva and Joe, so much of their performance, so much of their placement in the season is based around and just with Jeff and the way that her confessionals are, like, it is very clear that the journey for Eva this season is currently not about her journey from never being able to hold a job to winning Survivor. It's currently just never being able to hold a job to being on Survivor. And I think that's the problem, is that I'm not seeing a peek through of her ability to win yet. So I can't make her a contender. But the thing is, if she's sitting, because what are we at this week?
10.
If she's sitting in final 6 and they haven't thought about taking her out yet, that's when she becomes a winner contender. Because now all of a sudden you've left her in too long. And especially if someone like Joe is there, like Joe's going to fall on his sword for Eva. That's been made pretty clear. We're going to get a little bit of strategic elements for Joe, but I think, again, in the event that they are going to try and take, like, I would be so curious of Joe and Eva in a fire-making scenario together, because you know that if they're both at 4 and neither of them win, they're going to be put in there together. There's no way they're going to let...
And there's no way Joe's winning that. Or if... it's either going to be one of those things where they both have to do it, and like Joe's going to be so emotional when he beats her. But I do agree. I think it's going to be one of those things where he would fall on the sword.
And the thing is, because I just don't think he's going to be able to take the opportunity away from her. And I think that that's going to endear him to a lot of people, but I think it's going to be difficult. If they leave her in for too long, that's when Eva becomes a contender for me. But until they do that, I can't think it's going to be her.
Gotcha. Yeah. But I love how you're looking at the two duos, though, because I think it's going to come from a duo. Because the fact that Jeff hyped up duos, because I'm looking at some of these other players too. Like Mitch, for me, is like my number 3 right now in terms of winners at it, just because he's had such a good, like, if he is the winner, it's exactly what Rachel was. It's you're on the outs and you're pre-merge, but you're always present. And then like finally at the merge is where you blossom, and we're seeing him blossom. He got out, say, now what's next? And I think he's going to be able to slither by a little bit. But I just don't know if this season, because of the whole like strength loyalty thing, this is not like the past few seasons. Like last season was so fluid. Like Operation Italy, Andy was flipping all over the place. Genevieve was flipping. Like there was no sturdy alliances. Even Teeny was flipping on people too. Shout out Teeny, came out as male this week. Awesome. Congrats to him. But I just really like, I don't know, because this is such an old school dynamic. Do we even see that type of edit where like Mitch is the underdog, or is he just getting picked? Or is this going to be as basic as like Chrissy goes next, then Mitch, then it's Mary, then it's Star, then the last cut is Camilla, and then Kyle feels so sad that Kyle's at 5th, then the fire making happens, Joe goes out at 4, and then your final 3 is David, Shaheen, and Eva. If that's what it is, it's going to be boring, but I honestly think it would be refreshing to see that happen, because Gabler was an old school type winner, but it was a very unconventional way to the end. It was more like Jesse's loss. Whereas here, like, I legitimately could see a way that this kind of alliance steamrolls. But I'm going to put another name out there that I'm considering. Not just Mitch. I'm considering Kyle as well. I do agree with Joe and Eva. I think they're mostly there for their own personal journeys. Honestly, I think Eva's journey is already complete. I feel like she knows who she is, and it's more everyone else's journey around her. But the person this episode that I finally looked at, I was like, oh, maybe they are going to win, is Shaheen. Because Shaheen, it felt very D when like they're talking about how big a threat they are, but they like are talking about taking the shot and then they never do. I feel like this happened with Kenzie too, where they're just talking about how big a threat they are, and we, the audience, think they might be in trouble, but in actuality, Cedric's the only one who voted for him. Like, why would they hype him up as such a big threat unless he is Kyle and Camilla's big dragon to slay, or he is the winner and they want to give us that fear and have some adversity for Shaheen to make it seem like he overcame something, when in actuality he cruised to the end. And because of David's whole like, nope, it's not the right time, I really do worry Kyle and Camilla for planting those seeds. That might be their downfall. But the only problem with Shaheen is that he's not in a duo, and like I just feel like the duo thing is so prominent that like that's the thing. I'm reading too much into Propes now.
It could also be very like duo slayer, right? Like that could be the idea, is that Jeff kind of puts the duos out there as like the thing to look out for, so that then when Shaheen becomes the duo slayer later on, because I agree with you. I think the planting of seeds of like, no, it's not the right time, really leads to this idea of like, there's also still time for like a David Shaheen team up, which is also huge, because then the problem will be, and this will be big, right, is that if Shaheen teams up with someone like David and starts using that to his advantage and starts using David as a shield to make moves, then he's that kind of third duo in the realm of like, oh, yep, okay, we got Joe Eva, Kyle Camilla, David Shaheen. How is this going to all? How is this all going to formulate and go down? And then
Yeah.
if Shaheen brings David to the end, and he says like, hey, listen, I utilized David in the middle of the game because I realized I wasn't going to be able to do this if I was just by myself. And I started pitting duos against each other. I wanted to become the duo killer or whatever stupid thing he comes up with at the end. Then that's going to look great, especially when Kyle and Camilla sit there and David sits there and goes like, we should have done it. We should have done it. Like, and that is always a great aspect for a winner to have on the side, right? It's like not even their own abilities, but the fact that someone else at one point was like, I should have done that, and I didn't, and it cost me the game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's Carolyn and Jam Jam. It's I should have flipped on him. It's every time this happens, it's always like, oh, I wish I had taken that shot when I did. It's like Tiffany wanting to take out Kenzie. Kenzie takes out Tiffany, and I don't think Kenzie took out Tiffany. I think it was, there were a lot of other factors in taking out Tiffany. I think Q had a big part to play in it too. But yeah, my thing with Shaheen and what you just said, it's like it's the big brother thing of like,
right.
You are the Derek and Cody of that onion. You are the Hayden and Enzo of that onion. You are, and I know it was Hayden and Lane, but you know what I mean. But I really do think it has to be like that duo in the core. And like you said, yeah, there's still time. The only thing is like, that would be their best move because I think right now Shaheen can out-talk a lot of them. The only person that he probably doesn't want to sit next to is honestly Eva, just because of the story, and I hate to play that card, but like that is true. Like I even think Shaheen, I think Shaheen can out-talk Kyle. I think he can out-talk David. He can definitely out-talk Joe because I think Joe's just going to play a very honest, like I don't know if Joe's going to be the best talker at the end. People will love him, but I don't think he's going to be as urgent and like forthright with his words. And then Camilla is not part of that alliance anyway, so it's really like, yeah, I think if he can play that middle of the duos, I think that's the best strategy for him. Because even in the end, like Eva, we've seen a relationship between Eva and David. We've seen a relationship between Eva and Shaheen. We've seen a relationship between Joe and Shaheen. Like those four, we've seen all their interconnectivity. Right. Like that could very well just be our final four, and we're just like overthinking it because it is a very Big Brother-esque game.
Very possible.
Yeah. But then let's talk about some of the people in the outs. What about Star? Because she's my favorite. Like, if I had to pick a winner right now, like, I want Star to win. Because I love how she's grown from, like, not loving Eva, but then realizing she didn't understand Eva, getting to know Eva, giving her idol to Eva. And, like, that would normally make me pissed off because I'd be like, why the hell are you doing that? But now look who has an idol and who has the target and who doesn't. Right. Like, I think it was honestly a smart move to do it publicly, too, so people are taking all the heat off you. And you can use the excuse of she had a big moment, not we're tight allies. And she doesn't have that, like, marriage of an alliance,
I think Star's not a bad option. I think the problem is that so much of Star's game from the very beginning was about getting out someone who she had no business wanting to get out because there was literally nothing other than a full misunderstanding. And so Star's whole season has really just been, I went after the wrong person for so long, and now I flipped back to like giving her my idol so that she stays safe. But now there hasn't really been anything to like boost Star up.
Right.
I think, again, it's one of those things where, like, these next 2 weeks, I think, are going to be the telling part because if Star really is someone to be a contender and is someone to look out for, she's going to have a big part in what happens. If she doesn't have a big part in what happens, I think it's safe to say that she's sort of, like, out of the contention. Yeah. But it doesn't necessarily mean she wouldn't be a good winner if she won.
I think she's definitely out of contention to win just based on the confessionals and the edit. My only defensive against that is, like, if she was saying bad things about Eva, I don't know if they would want to show it on the show because they would later resolve it and because it was coming from a place of misunderstanding. And I really think she was probably saying a lot more that was like, if we air this, Star's going to look really bad because she doesn't know, but also like it's going to come across a certain way that we don't want Star to be vilified. But in that case, I think that's a good thing for Star because it means they're protecting her image because they want her to be likable. Like if they could have if she's going to be a boot in the next few weeks, they could have just leaned into her being this villain, but they didn't. They made her just more of like an outsider who just kind of was out of the loop. But now she's in the loop. And what I'm really hanging on to is this last episode, both her and Chrissy said something along the lines of like, I don't want to play the loyalty game. Like, I think you need to start taking out the big threats. And I love that they're thinking that. My only worry is like maybe this is the exception season where that they're just not able to get that ground rolling. But then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, if Mitch feels that way and Mary's able to feel that way and Camilla's able to feel that way, all you have to do is sway Kyle, and then the whole game is shifted. But
Well,
the
or
only problem is,
wait,
yeah,
Chris, like it's really not going to be a hard. That I think looking at it, the thing is, it's not hard for that group to make a move. They are none of them are in the in right now, and
right,
they are the majority that can do whatever they want if they find out what a name of like one of the duos, what name they're landing on, and they can make the decision, right? Like they get to choose who goes home every week. I think the problem is, and this is sort of like maybe this is a meta read into. Star was very vocal at the beginning of this season on Twitter, and I always think that like it's a little dangerous for a
yeah,
winner or someone who is like in huge winning contention to be so vocal on Twitter
yeah.
about something. So like, and again, maybe that's just like reading a little too far into it. But I agree with you. Like, not for nothing, I think someone that I would love to see win is Mitch, and I
Mm,
just don't necessarily think Mitch is like a huge contender right now because I think he's gotten lucky. He's gotten lucky regarding kind of like the situations he's found himself ending up in, the different tribe swaps, the way that
yeah.
that's going for
The
him.
fact that he's also really good in challenges and was able to win some of those challenges for his
Right.
tribe too.
So it's not necessarily like, oh, Mitch is really playing a winning game. It's more like now Mitch is getting really lucky that he's in the right situation and also pulling himself through when he needs to be pulling himself through. But again, like in terms of strategy, it's really hard to say that like up against someone like Kyle or Camilla or David or Shaheen, like it's really hard to say. I think there's more of an opportunity. He sort of has the Eva like kind of star quality, right? Where like we like Mitch and we root for Mitch because we know that Mitch is not just fighting like a battle on the island like in regular Survivor fashion, but he's fighting it also along with a handicap, which is always going to be harder. So
Yeah.
we are more likely to root for him. The question is like, what does that mean for his place on the island when like as things start to diminish and dwindle down? Like, does he this is really again, it's going to be crucial because he no longer has Charity kind of there as this like number two, but it never really was that important for him anyway. Like he never really needed that. So like this episode, I'm thinking about the duos, right? Like, does he find himself attached to someone? Because like, here's the other thing: if he finds himself attached to like Mary, I don't think he's going to like. I don't think anything's happening. But if he does end up finding himself like Mitch and Shaheen, like
We also saw him bond with Kyle that one little scene on the boat, right?
right,
Was it Kyle? I think, or David. It was one of the two.
I'm looking. Hold on.
But like there was a scene with him in the boat, and that's the thing is like all his relationships have been Charity, who's gone. You know, Cedric, he had a really great moment with, is gone. So I was worried for him. But like I think that one scene of him like on the boat, like kind of just being like, listen, we haven't really talked game. Let's start talking game. And then it was either Kyle or David. They were like, I'm actually like looking at Mitch now. Like Mitch is actually here to play, and I respect that. Like I really do think it's just gonna take they have to make the crack into the big alliance. And the problem for me is that like just the edit is so obvious that like the characters we're supposed to care more about are Joe, Eva, like the Kyle and Camilla duo, David, Shaheen is a big narrator. You know, we're supposed to care a lot about Mitch, but like even then, like we're supposed to know that Mitch is on the outs, and either he's going to overcome that, or he's just, or it's going to explain it when he does.
Whereas, like, we're not really
Yeah,
getting much from Mary. We haven't gotten much from Mary since that tribal when she was supposed to go home.
yeah, and
And
Mary was silent last week, and her two other tribe mates went home. She didn't get a single confessional, and that's the thing with the edits. Like now, Mary, like I can't even think about the underdogs rising up because of those underdogs.
right,
Chrissy has zero edit. Mary has a little edit, and like Star had a slow edit at the start, and like hasn't taken off quite as much. To where I'm like really looking at Camilla, who had a very bad merge episode. I don't know if y'all remember, like she
not good.
barely got any confessionals in the merge. It was all Kyle, which also has me worried for them. Like I really think right now Mitch is the only one of that underdog alliance that I could see like actually winning based on the edit, which makes me think that this power structure is just going to continue to dominate. But at the same time, like maybe it's just an unconventional season. We were all wrong on Gabler, wrong on Erica, so like I really don't know. And I think that's what's so exciting too is that this episode after we could just be like, okay, so they're just going to run the show. Or if it's a flip, if David goes home next episode or something, we can all be like, okay, so now the game's reset again. And like it's new era Survivor as we thought it was. Or we're going to say, all right, they're just picking off the outsiders. Like if Chrissy or Mitch go home this week, it's just going to be a pretty slow few weeks, I think, which is going to be kind of weird.
Um, I mean, here's the thing: is that at the end of the day, I think this season still is probably doing it for me more than like I like this season a lot more than I liked 43. I think that
Mhm.
the characters I just enjoy more.
There's no one I would be disappointed in winning right now. Even Chrissy, who has a small edit, like I would love to see her win because I like her. I like her vibe. Like I wish they showed her more because I like her.
But I wouldn't. I I think I like it better than last season. I still don't think it really does what it needs to do for me. That like I think 46 was really good with their tribes and their characters. And I think
Yeah.
44, 46, and 48 are probably like in the top three of how things are going. But again, I think it's because right now at the end, sort of like you just said, everybody who's left, I wouldn't mind staying and I wouldn't mind winning. The only person who I wouldn't love to watch win is Mary, just because I don't know outside of that first tribal what Mary has done in order to net a win. But like any of the contenders that we've talked about, Shaheen, Camilla, Kyle, Eva, Joe. I'd love to see any of the five of them win. I'd love to see Mitch win. Like you just said, like I wouldn't be upset with the Chrissy win. I would just be confused on how we got it.
Right. Well, that's the thing is like the edit. I feel like they're almost maybe they're just doing it unconventionally because it's an unconventional season, but I feel like they're doing us a disservice by making them such invisible characters to where now we're at a 5-5 split where there's 5 people in alliance, 5 people not in the alliance, and like so many of them are under edited. I'm like, I wish they had edited them super like heavily so that we have some suspense, but we don't because you and I love her, but you spent so much time on Say and she's not even on the jury. It's like
now I don't get to have any payoff of her being on the jury and then like thinking about her and thinking about how she's going to react and thinking about how they're going to sway her when she gets to the jury.
Yeah.
Like I think it's just they love their characters. And again, maybe they're just building up, say, for like a season 50 sort of thing. And I think that that's one of the harder parts too, is that like they are clearly trying to build up to the fact that they have got a season 50 coming up and they want their characters on season 50. They don't necessarily want the people playing the best games or surviving the longest.
Well, yeah, because as we heard, Jesse got cut, which is crazy. Yeah. So yeah, we can segue a little bit to 50 just because we found out we knew Carolyn was probably going to get cut because of the Jeff Probst has beef with traders, but she got cut and Jesse got cut. We also heard like some old school players didn't make the like Natalie Tenorelli, but that doesn't matter to you. Yeah, like so we started getting a little tricklings of certain players getting the call versus not getting the call. I believe the two biggest ones though were Jesse and Carolyn. I there was a third one that I can't remember, but
crazy.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of who the other one was.
Jeff, give me a call, bud. We got to talk.
I'm forgetting who the other one was. Oh, but I think also the sentiment out there, and like nothing's confirmed, but I hear it's going to be more heavily focused on like the older seasons because they probably think, you know what, new era, we're going to have our chance to like really develop these people. Right. Whereas I've heard it could be like 4 or 5 new era names, like very minimal. And in that case, I feel like, you know, Andy's probably one of them. You know, you're probably going to have, and I don't know how many winners are there either. Cause like, I don't know if Marianne's going to be on it. Like Dee was just on Challenge. So I don't think she'll be on it. So it's going to be super weird.
I think, and again, maybe I might be wrong, but with Teeny's news, I think we actually probably are more likely to see Teeny on now because that journey that they were going on during 47 has now not only come to a close, but it's full circled. And I think that now because of now they know who they are and like they're open about it, I think that would be a huge thing and I think that's something that like not only like again, not like, oh, it's good television, but like the network had such a big involvement in being a part of that I'm curious if that's going to be a reason that Teeny comes back.
And like, not for nothing, what is the moment that people are going to be talking about from this season? It's not anything to do with strategy. Like, Kyle and Camilla made that huge move on Thomas, and the very next episode, like, we kind of forgot about it because of how powerful the Eva Joe moment was, and not because they're exploiting anyone's illness or mental disability. No, it's just because it's such a great human moment, and we're going to get that if we get Teeny on the season, or Evie, or even someone who's had, like, a big personal journey. Like, Deshaun has recently come out since his 41 season as bisexual. Like there's going to be a lot of people who have had these journeys and awakenings from Survivor, which is why I love that they're also pulling back to the old school, because we're going to have like maybe some people from Survivor season 4 where like the first black players made it deep in the game, and like what is that like in a 2025 lens, you know? The only thing I'm hoping is that if they don't get the call now, we will still at least see Jesse at some point. We will at least see Carolyn at some point.
That's crazy. I can't believe that's
Yeah.
That's sad. That would have been, honestly, if anything, that would have been my 100% for sure was Jesse.
And you
Great.
know what? Maybe it could be trolling. It could be quite literally trolling, but it seemed a little bitter. But that's my problem too. Is like, yes, you have a lot of people on hold, and like they probably all got calls for availability, thought they were on, but the problem is probably 100 people got calls of availability. I think the problem now is that if you behave a certain way, now you're really. Oh, Rome was the third person. That's why Rome was the third person who confirmed he was not on. Now I remember. But even then, like depending on how you respond to it, also can affect your longevity in casting. I mean, we go through this as actors all the time, Zach and I. Like, if you behave badly, if you're upset about not getting a certain role, people remember that for the next time they cast, and that's the same for this too. Like, if Jesse's going to throw a hissy fit online, not saying he did, he was probably the most cool and calm. He kind of did it snarkily and sarcastically, but Carolyn was very vocally upset. Rome was hella pissed online. If you're going to be pissed online, just know that, like, that's going to take you out of the running for Survivor 60 and Survivor 70 because there's going to come a point where Sari doesn't want to do it an eighth time, So I really think they need to, like, keep in mind, yes, maybe 50 is not going to work out, but maybe 52 will be New Era All Stars, and then you did all this complaining for nothing, and now you're officially burned, and now, Carolyn, you can only do Traitors again. And not for nothing, I don't think she'll be on Traitors again because she's now she's too easy to read. People are going to think she's a threat. So I hope these aren't. I hope the New Era players aren't digging themselves holes that they can't get out of with this. I think what you got to do is say, I'm not on it, but I'm looking forward to hopefully an opportunity to play again someday. I can't wait to watch. And I think that's the best way you have to go about it. If you're an old school player from season 5 and you don't get picked for 50, it's probably over for you. You can bitch and moan. But these New Era players, if you're listening, and I know you are, Rome has listened before, take it easy. You never know if 51 will be a returnee season as well,
I agree.
I don't know. Who do you most want to see from this season so far of the pre-merge that we left? If there was someone to come back, is it Say? Is it Thomas? Who would you like to see on 50 of the people we haven't, who are no longer in the game?
Of the people who we no longer have in the game.
Yeah, because we don't know how who's our favorite right now. Like Joe could do something totally terrible next episode, and we could all like cancel. Like, I'm not gonna say that's gonna happen, but you know.
I hate to be basic, but I kind of would like to see Joe or Eva if they don't win and without each other, because I feel like, again, when you are that person, like when you're that person and you're a part of a duo like this, it's very hard to kind of break out. So I would love to see one of them win, or I would love to see one of them back on 50 if they don't win.
Yeah.
Right now I want to see Thomas back. I really like
too.
Thomas back. I think he's probably Thomas and Bianca are my two top, because I feel like we didn't get a ton of Bianca, which sucks, but I feel like she actually would have been a really great person to watch in the grand scheme of things. I would have loved to see that. Who the heck else?
You have Kevin, Justin, Cedric, Charity.
God. No one who tickles my fancy. I liked Say a lot, and I would like to see her back. I don't know if I necessarily think 50 is the right call, but I think another one might be.
They should start bringing back captain seasons. They do it on Big Brother sometimes. Like, honestly, do like a season soon where it's like maybe Jesse and Cody are the captains, and like they're your only two returnees for the season. See how it goes. That's how Boss and Rob won, and maybe it's a little unbalanced, but like do captain seasons, or put maybe 4 or 5 returnees, or do a fans versus favorites or something. That way, because I know Jeff loves these new bloods to kind of make new characters, but it's also like now you have so many to use. You should be doing all-star seasons, because this is the longest stretch a Survivor span has been without an all-star season or returnee season at all. Like, this is the longest it's been, which will be 9 seasons. So like they really need to start recycling these players, because the returning players are what make the DNA of the fan base. Like the Sari, Parvati, like all of them are not legends until they return multiple times and build that legacy. Like Rob is 10th place on his first season. It's not till he comes back Boston Rob becomes the Boston Rob we know and gets second, So I'm hoping this new era, like we still get to see a lot of them play again, even though it's looking slimmer and slimmer, and it looks like we're not going to get any winners. So like if you down the line, I'd love to see D play again. I'd love to see Jam Jam. I'd love to see Marianne. If this is the end for them, like I'd be pretty pissed. But yeah, anything else for I agree though. Thomas is my pick as well. I think the merge is going to be lacking Thomas, because I think Thomas would have broken up the whole strength thing. But do you think David's going to go on the immunity run? Do you think he's going to break the record?
I feel like
He says he's going to.
I feel like they're setting him up to do that, which makes me think he
Okay.
that
I,
Rollins.
I I feel like if anyone's going to say it and do it, it's going to be him. Just because I feel like that last challenge, he could have gone another 3 hours. Like he looked rock solid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah. Cool. Also, do you read into the preview? Like Kyle's like, I don't know what David's doing. David's going haywire. Do you think that's setting up a David
Well,
downfall, or do you
I
think it could be one of those things where David wins immunity and it's like, oh, never mind?
yeah, I can't read into the preview anymore because I feel like every time I read into the preview and I rank based on the preview alone, I don't rank well. So
Yeah.
I can't. And I'm gonna be honest, I really don't know. I know you've done yours. I don't really know how I'm ranking right now because it's either going to be a power player goes home or one of the five
Yeah.
just goes home. That's
I'm just
not
gonna tell you, Chrissy's gonna be at the bottom of my ranking until she goes, just because she's got the smallest
yeah.
edit.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like, I don't know, because like I have David lower on my rankings. I have Camilla lower on my rankings. Because if this comes back around to Shaheen that Camilla was trying to get him out, Camilla could be the next boot. Like I'd be shocked. But like if I didn't think Cedric and Say were going this early either. I thought Cedric was going to be like a finalist, like loser, like 0 vote finalist, and I thought Say was making our finale. So like, what do I know? So I think it's going to be definitely pretty interesting. I will tell you though, Eva's going to be my number one when we do our TikToks, just because I think Eva, she has an idol, and that's another thing. We haven't seen a lot of idols.
there's no reason that she shouldn't be. There's no reason that she should be going home. That's just
Right.
the point blank.
But
Period.
idols have been misplayed. But yeah, do you think we're gonna see another idol come up? Because I feel like it's been a while. Like Kyle played his idol on the Thomas boot, but like I feel like idols have been kind of seldom seen since.
I
Or
don't.
are you good? Are you good with no idols, or do you want more idols?
With no idols. I like an idol every so often, but I feel like I don't need it to make this season interesting for me.
I feel like this is the one season where I could use an idol, because like if this is going to be this big macho alliance just picking off all the weak outsiders, like this is the chance where I would love Chrissy to get an idol or Star to get another idol and break things up. But it seems like the one idol is out there and that's it right now. So because Mitch also used his block a vote on Say, so like there's no advantages except I think for the idol, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, Zach, that was a short episode. We tried to keep it at 45 minutes. We went a few minutes over. But Zach, any last words? Who's got the recipe for reality this week? And then where can they find you? And any last remarks?
I think the recipe for reality is gonna go to all of the milk that David has consumed in his quest to be a milk boy. Like that's
The recipe for reality is milk.
ingredient of the week.
Yeah.
No, and then big recipe for reality goes to, I'm gonna give it to Say. Like I think that she was probably the best TV so far of the season. So to see her go is sad, but also great because I think now we've got room for even more characters.
There you go. Yeah, I was gonna give it to David just for the immunity performance as well, just because that was an incredible performance. But you know what? I kind of want to give it to Chrissy just because she had the balls in tribal council to say like, at some point we're gonna have to lie to each other, guys. Like I know you want to play loyalty, but like it's Survivor, you gotta lie. And like, yeah, that's an unspoken thing, but for her to say it blatantly at tribal, I think that's why she's gonna be in trouble. But like, good for her. Like I love just calling out the loyalty thing because it's like you're on Survivor, play. But I get it as someone who on my season of orgs, like I was fully playing the loyalty game until the very end when I wanted to flip, and then they flipped on me. Like I really did think like loyalty. If you are winning a lot and no one's going to tribal, like that does become a thing where you're like, these are the people I trust. I only know them. Once you play a lot of Survivor, that's when you start to actually have fun and like get to play around. And that's why I hope Mary gets to have a breakout because she's had a lot of.
That's when you got to be like me and never be loyal in your life and just
in your life. In orgs, not in your life. You're a very loyal friend.
In orgs, I'm very loyal in person. Only in orgs, and you'll always end up with second place. You'll with second place.
Hey, better than Say. She's not on the jury.
Be your most common placement, and you'll be upset about it. But you'll have made final tribal council more than half the people you've ever met. So
that's right. I like 7th place because you're always gonna make the DVD cover. So
Mandolin Brian says 7th place is the time the game changes. That's always when the game changes. Oh,
that's right, and it's usually because the person who goes out in 7th was a big influential part of that game. Just saying.
Hey, also the recipe for reality this week goes to Bella Ramsey. This has nothing to do with this channel. The Last of Us is so good. Episode 1 was so good. Everyone should go watch The Last of Us. Please. It's so good. I'm trying to figure out what my next tattoo that goes next to this one will be because it's my last tattoo.
I was gonna say I have not finished season one because that Nick Offerman Murray Bartlett episode destroyed me. So I will get back on it. I think I'm gonna do it this week.
You're at a better point in your life now. You
Yeah,
can past it now. You can
yes.
walk past the Murray Bartlett episode. It's very
Yeah, even though my birthday brings back some trauma, so maybe next week. But yeah, I will leave it with that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for letting us talk for almost an hour about this, just because it has been so long. But we are going to be on TikTok. This is coming out Wednesday morning, so check out TikTok later today. I'm going to have it up in the afternoon for our rankings of exactly where we think these players fall. Having now talked about it, might make it a little easier or harder. Who knows? And stay tuned every week on TikTok for those, and we'll hopefully be back on the main channel occasionally for this stuff. Definitely in time for the pre-finale predictions for sure. We'll do one because I think the finale I'm on the boat, so we're gonna make sure to do one like big one before the finale, and then if the finale is recapped by Zach and a guest, we might be seeing that happen as well. But
guests,
keep
everyone.
an eye out for some guests. But otherwise, thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.